Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive deep. Today we're looking at something really, well, kind of universal, right? Rituals. I mean, who doesn't have them?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of inescapable, whether it's how you got to have your coffee or, I don't know, some big family thing every year.
Exactly. So we've got research articles, psychology stuff, even some personal stories.
Oh, yeah, tons of stuff. Even looking at how rituals can help, like with anxiety,
Hmm.
feeling anxious or how families use them to be closer.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly is a ritual? The word gets thrown around a lot.
Right. One of our sources, The Impact of Family Rituals, they define it pretty well. It's got to be something you do regularly, pretty specific, and it has meaning, like a deeper meaning, especially if you do it with other people.
Meaning you share. That's interesting. So, like, if I always have coffee a certain way, that's not a ritual, it's just my habit.
Right, exactly. But if it's like Sunday brunch, the whole family's there, it's every week, that becomes more than just eating.
Hmm. It's that shared thing. Makes sense. The rich benefits of rituals, that article, it contrasts rituals with routines,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, good point. A routine's just functional, like stretching before a run. But a ritual, there's symbolism there. Think of athletes, those weird things they do before games. It's not just superstition, it's something else.
So it's deeper. Okay. Why does that even matter? This one study, singers used a salt sprinkling ritual before performing for stage fright.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. They actually got less anxious, so it wasn't just in their
Do you
heads.
think all rituals have that kind of effect, like psychologically?
It's possible. I mean, think about it. It's like an anchor, right? If everything's chaotic, you do your ritual, it's predictable, you can control something.
And there's biology too, right? Like the impact of family rituals, it talks about oxytocin being released during rituals, the love hormone.
Ah, so it's like a double whammy. You feel more in control and more connected to people.
Huh. Suddenly those boring family dinners don't seem so boring anymore.
Hmm.
Or holiday traditions.
Right. There's a reason they stick around. This one story, The Rich Benefits of Rituals, about friends and their music festival thing.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
It wasn't just the festival, it was the planning, the packing, all that buildup. It made them closer, happier, and that feeling lasted even after the festival was over, apparently.
So there's lasting effects, wow. Like that research from Dr. Barbara Fees. It was in The Impact of Family Rituals too. Kids who did family rituals regularly, they were emotionally healthier, felt like they belonged.
Makes sense. And it's not just families either, workplace stuff too. There's this Harvard research, I think it was in The Power of Rituals and Traditions. Even simple things like teams eating lunch together made work better.
It's like rituals are built into us
Mm,
socially. I mean, think about way back when our ancestors, they had to cooperate to survive,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Maybe rituals were how they did that, strengthen those bonds, make sure everyone worked together.
It's a cool thought. Like, is there something really primal about this need for rituals? Something that helped us succeed as a species?
So it's not all happy festivals and family dinners, right? Rituals can be important for like tough times too.
Yeah, definitely. The power of rituals and traditions. It talks about that. How rituals can help during stress, even grief.
Right, like when everything's chaotic. Dr. Brooks, he says routines and rituals can make things feel stable again, normal.
Exactly. He gives this example Ukrainian mothers, during the war, having to flee, everything's uncertain. They still made sure their kids had routines.
I remember reading about that, those moms going through so much, but they knew their kids needed some kind of structure, some predictability.
It was probably a lifeline for those families. Like, okay, we can't control the war, but we can control this little bit of our lives.
Powerful stuff. What about grief, though? The rich benefits of rituals, it mentions that too, right?
Yeah, it talks about funerals. They're different all over the world, of course, but they all give people a way to grieve together, to get support when they've lost someone.
So rituals aren't just for the good times. They're also there to help us through the bad times.
Yeah, I think so. It's like they give us a way to process those big emotions, connect with others, and maybe even find meaning when things are really hard.
Okay, so we've seen all these benefits, but realistically, how do we add more rituals to our lives? Everyone's so busy these days.
Right. Well, there's this book, Raising Resilient Children. It's mentioned in Dr. Brooks's article, and they suggest just having a set time each week for family no matter what.
Simple, but maybe that's the point, right? It doesn't have to be some big thing.
Yeah, just be intentional with your time. Oh, and the rich benefits of rituals, it brings up a really good point. It says you have to be aware of your own boundaries with group rituals.
Like if you're not comfortable with something, you You shouldn't feel pressured to do it. Makes sense.
Exactly. Like that music festival story, the author was saying how stressful it was to get ready, but for them, it was worth it in the end. It's about finding that balance.
Before we wrap up, what's the most interesting thing you've learned about rituals? Like what really stands out?
Hmm. I think it's how many different kinds of rituals there are and how they affect our whole lives. I mean, from personal stuff to work, happy times, sad times. It's like this thread that connects everything.
Yeah, that's true. We think of rituals as these big formal things, but like we've been talking about, it's often the small, everyday stuff that matters most.
Totally agree. It's all about taking those everyday moments and giving them meaning, doing them with intention. That first cup of coffee, bedtime stories, even just taking a minute to breathe, those can all be rituals if you approach them the right way.
So it's not about adding more to our to-do lists. It's more about how we think about what we already do.
Exactly. It's a mindset shift. Which brings up a big question for everyone listening. How can you bring more meaningful rituals into your life? It's about finding what works for you. Maybe you bring back an old family tradition or make a new one that fits your values.
Maybe it's that yoga class you've been meaning to try, or a regular game night with the family.
Or even something as simple as lighting a candle and taking some deep breaths before work. It's all about what brings you joy, helps you connect, gives you a sense of purpose.
You've given us a lot to think about.
Hmm.
I like this idea that rituals aren't just about tradition, but about making your life what you want it to be?
Right. It's not about obligation, it's about being in control. We can use rituals to build a life with more meaning, more connection, more joy.
Yeah, it's like taking charge,
Yeah.
right? Rituals aren't something you have to do. It's something you can choose, you can create.
Exactly. It's realizing, you have the power to decide what your experiences will be, to make your life meaningful, even with these little things, these intentional acts.
And it doesn't have to be like perfect, right?
Yeah.
You can try stuff out, see what sticks.
Oh, for sure. It's a journey, right? Be patient with yourself and have fun with it. You might be surprised how much richness, how much depth rituals can bring to your life.
Well, on that note, I think we've pretty much reached the end of our deep dive into the world of rituals. It's been pretty fascinating, right?
It really has. It's been great sharing all this with you. Hopefully, whoever's listening is feeling inspired to, take a look at their own rituals, maybe think about them differently.
And who knows, maybe this will be the spark for some new rituals, new ways to connect, whether it's with yourself, your family, or even something bigger.
I hope so. Because, like we've seen, rituals can take something ordinary and make it meaningful. They can bring people together, bring joy, even when things are really tough.
So to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What rituals really resonate with you? What new ones are you thinking about trying? Come chat with us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going.
And until next time, keep diving deep. Keep exploring the power of rituals in your life.